then walked back on the railroad track because the railroad track was in between farm area, and the whites lived on one side in the farm, and there was a lot of weeds growing there, so they couldn't see me as I traversed the track, which was parallel to Old Leland Road, and I would go downtown that way from then on, you see. So that was basically how it went, and I finally graduated from Old Bannon High School in 1961. In the meantime, we still couldn't get, my dad got a job as a janitor, but that was not enough money, so we still had to pick cotton. We would pick cotton, and yeah, we lived out, it wasn't in the city limits, it was right. So we would still have to pick cotton, and that's when I became a very good cotton picker. I could pick 300 pounds of cotton a day, and in 1956, I was about 13 going on 14. When I was that old, I could pick 300 pounds of cotton a day, and before that time, before we left off to the plantation, I picked my first 100 pounds of cotton when I was 9 years old, and I had learned how to add enough to figure the weights for my dad. In other words, I would weigh the cotton, remove the amount that the sack weighed, and add up all of the numbers. And that's another story. I learned how to add up numbers and large number of numbers. I won't go into that. And then I would tell my dad it's time now to take it to the gym, okay? So that was basically how I got to the point that I could pick so much cotton at 13, okay? So I finally graduated from Old Bannon High School. And there are a lot of tales there, but I don't need to get into them. I've told you most of the issues as to how we got from the plantation to Greenville. And at that point, I finally graduated. And anything around it that you'd like to ask me, I could tell you. But that was basically what happened. And one other thing, when I was 7 years old, I had full responsibility for helping the family. I had specific things I had to do. I had to make sure that the animals were fed and watered and so forth. And when I was 9 years of age, I chopped cotton for the first time for pay, $3 a day at 9 years old. And in that same year that I chopped cotton at 9, that was the year I picked my first 100 pounds of cotton. Okay, so at that age in the country, on the plantation, you were grown by the time you were 9 in terms of responsibility. Okay. Any other? What else?
Your daddy owned the pressing company?
Yes. It's interesting. My dad, during the Depression, had his own cleaning business, and he had started this pressing shop. And he would dry clean. He was a dry cleaner on the plantation. Obviously, he was only getting black business, okay. And so what happened was, all of the black folk would bring their clothes to him for dry cleaning and so forth. But the Depression hit. Apparently, this is before I was born, obviously. And he lost his business because he had bought a steam presser for his suits, and apparently owed money on it. And they took it, they guys came to reclaim it. So at that point, he became a full-time sharecropper, and his business couldn't go forward because he couldn't keep his presser, for pressing suits. And I think at the same time, you may have heard my sister tell a story about Grandmama Phoebe. She had, apparently at that time, had bought a sewing machine. And when they tried to reclaim her sewing machine, yeah, she didn't allow it. But my dad capitulated and he allowed them to do it. I guess they took the pressing press. So from that point on, he was a full-time sharecropper. I wasn't born at the time, but basically it had to be shortly after that, before I was born. Okay. And that was the idea about the pressing. So he's kind of like a little businessman on the side, yeah. And my dad and mama both had good business sense, because when we left the plantation, my mom we had over $1,000. That was not a lot of money in 1955, but they were not broke in terms of black standards on the plantation. Yeah, yeah, they were very industrious. Yeah.